Yo, right back at it like I left something. It's your boy Cosma. Man, part 3, Nimrod, Jehovah Chronicles, number 13, man. We getting it cracking. Asio, Halito, Namaste, Nihao, and Shalom. To all the faithists, the Nazarites, the Essenes, and all the true Israelites of the world, all praises of the Creator, gang. Like to give a big peace and love out there to all the righteous gods and Nirvanians, goddesses. You hear me? You dig what I'm talking about? Who we got up in the chat? Elijah 7, She Brew, Yara Yad, Dread Nazi, the Dread. Huh? Bless up, King. You done know we got more fire for a weak heart today. You dig what I'm talking about? We gonna get right into it. I ain't gonna play too much long with you. I got a couple things I want to show you. But first, I want to get into these Ahoans, these giant men. Because even though they're giants, right? I want to show you that through race mixing, they come in different sizes, shapes, forms, ability to perceive and conceptualize in spiritual rates. You dig what I'm talking about? All the way down. And I'm gonna show y'all something too, right? Dig this, right? Before we go off into the videos and everything, you dig what I'm talking about? Let me get a little sound on that thing right there. Thank y'all for everybody for coming through. You did what I'm talking about. Sub, like, share. This is Nimrod part 3. Let's get into these giants real quick, right? First, let's go to the Lord's first book. Grab them old waspies real quick. Grab them old waspies. Create a gang. You dig what I'm talking about? We in the house, man. Y'all see, y'all know what it is. When y'all see the butterfly vortex, you know Cosmo, I'm about to get it cracking one time for y'all. I ain't playing with nobody. You dig what I'm talking about? I only fear the Most High. Wow. You dig what I'm talking about? Now, you got to understand, when we getting into the story of Nimrod, he's telling a tale from two different times, right? He's telling you about a time roughly 22,553 BC, 17th arc cycle, or 51,000 years after the creation of man. And then he drops down to a time of Abram, right? 3953 BC to 1553 BC, or the 23rd arc cycle, right? So there's a story that spans 18,000 years, right? So we obviously, using our logic, no man can live that long. So we're talking about two events. Why Og is allowed to be in that time and in the next time, or why Nimrod is allowed to be in this time and this and at this time, is because just like when you say the king says, see, the king in 0 AD is different than the king in 1800 AD, but they are no less the king. Now, when you're on some evil stuff, you dig what I'm talking about, or you giving out laws and rules and stuff, and you are on your negative path, right? Spiritually, right? This is how the spiritual rate or spiritual aspiration of one human can be seen in another. You dig what I'm talking about? But because it's by the deed, right? So when the king gave an order in 1 AD and the king give an order in 1800 AD, they are no less the king. So when you're reading something in 2000 AD, right, 200 years after one incident and 2,000 years after the other incidents, and they say the king said, it is no different than the story being told in 1 AD and 1800 AD, because the king said, because regardless, we know that they're different people, they are no less the king, right? Right. So the Lord's first book, right? Where we at? This is chapter 1. Lord's first book, chapter 1. We're going to start at we're going to start at 28, because I want y'all to catch. Remember, the difference between Raphaim and Nephilim is circumcision. So, understanding that we all have these Ahoin, these Druk, these iron genetics. You dig what I'm talking about? But the Creator put on to the ones that could pass the genetics the mark of circumcision, right? Circumcision is the only thing that separates a Nephilim from a Raphaim, right? Okay, so let's start at 28, right? No, let's start at 27. Let's start at 27, right? Ooh, big fat spliff a thing or some of that crit. Crit, but crit, but you want some of that crit, but you dig what I'm talking about? Just put your lungs in relax mode. You dig what I'm talking about? Start with 27. Be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the remembrance of the Lord God of heaven and earth, right? We act in the 23rd, 17th arc cycle, 2023, 153 BC, right? We find the Lord God giving these inspirations to the Ions, the Druks, the Ahuans. Good night. Oh, we got that thing now. This that thing that killed John Wayne. You do this gonna have to go to hell. Somebody gonna have to resurrect this blood, man. Ooh wee. He said, and I listen. He said, "Be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in remembrance of the Lord God of heaven and earth. And I gave the circumcision as a measure of the boundary of my chosen." Now listen, but there were druks in those days, but there were giants in those days, in parentheses, druks in those days, and in time after that. And my chosen came unto them. So your iron stock came to the druks, right? And they bear children unto them also, right? I want y'all to get to this, that not all druks are giants, and not all giants are druks, right? Y'all gotta wrap y'all mind around this. Giants are iron also. Yeah. Oh, you don't believe me? You don't believe me that the irons is giants also? And the giants are irons? Some are drug, right? Let's go on and read. We're going to get back to that, right? We're going to get back to that. And remember, the chosen came to the drugs, came to the giants, right? And their flesh became corrupt, so that vermin inhabited them. This is before the flood. This is that 600 years from 23,153 BC to 22,553 BC that we're getting told about in the book of Eighth and also in the Lord's first book that we're reading right now. And we in chapter 29, right? Chapter 1, verse 29, right? But there were giants, drunks, in those days and in the time after that. And my chosen came to them, and they bear to them all, and bear children to them also. And their flesh became corrupt, so that vermin inhabited them from the time of their birth to the time of their death. Look at that nastiness. And they became rotten in the head with catarrh. Catarrh is like cancer, right? Like a cancer. And they became rotten in the head with catarrh, and in the throat with ulcers and running sores, and in the lungs and joints with the poison of death. The poison of death, like our beloved Dr. Sebi told us, is mucus. Huh? And their offspring that was born unto them came forth afflicted with the sins of the fathers and the mothers, to linger in misery or to die in infancy. And they thus peopled heaven with untimely births and with spirits of darkness, who in turn came back and re-afflicted mortals. Look at that. 31 says, and I said, now this is the creator, I will destroy man from the face of the earth, for the flesh of man is corrupt, for by the eating of flesh. Look at this here. By the eating of flesh. The brother Malachi Maccabee got on the Scorn Black Man podcast last night and told y'all about the eating of flesh. And how one can become healthy spiritually and physically, starting with the very first law, and that is the dietary law. Shout out to Hilltop. Shout out to Zadok. Shout out to Don Yehuda. Me and Don Yehuda gonna have us a good build, not a debate, just a build. You dig what I'm talking about who is Israel? For real. You know what I mean? And we'll probably tap into the 12 tribes chart, all that stuff. Shalom. Everybody in the house, man. Thank y'all for coming through, man. And he said, I would destroy man from the face of the earth, for the flesh of man is corrupt. For by the eating of flesh, what corrupted his flesh? What corrupted man's flesh? The eating of flesh. And, hold on, key, unwise cohabitation, right? Hath he corrupted his race. So your diet is that important. So much so that it can corrupt your whole race to where you can wipe yourself out genetically, right? Now, notice, right, in verse 29, and it says, and their flesh became corrupt, right? After the ions came to them and birthed them children. Now, we've been reading this book, the ions already knew they wasn't supposed to be dealing with the drugs, right? So why is it the people who get it seem to not be getting it? Now, remember, in the synopsis of 16 cycles, chapter 1, I think it's verse 27, they say that the drugs raped the ions, went into the field and took them and raped the whole people into existence. But here in the Lord's first book, we got the ions coming to the drugs, coming to the giants. and birthing children with them on purpose. Somebody lying. Hmm? Y'all smell that? I smell supremacy. Steak. But remember, I told you, not all drunks are giants, right? And not all giants are drunks. And not all ions are little people. Some of the giants are ions too. But you ain't got to believe me. Please don't. You dig what I'm talking about? Let's turn to the Lord's second book, right? Don't believe me at all. Who cares what I say? You dig what I'm talking about? It's about what the creators say. All right? Let's get into the Lord's second book, chapter 3, right? And all great, listen to this. They're talking about the Ahoans, right? Dig this. Is it a contradiction? No. It's not a contradiction. You dig what I'm talking about? In all great divisions of the earth, these things were. Nor had one division of the earth much preference over another. Right? Where did we hear that? We heard that yesterday when King Og and Nimrod did a pact, a brotherhood with everybody and all the Raphaim stock around the world. Remember, the Raphaim are Ahoim, the Nephilim are Ahoim, the Nephilim are Rephaim. Listen, in all great divisions of the earth, these things were, nor had one division of the earth much preference over another. But in the regions of summer weather, where the earth brought forth abundantly, the Ahoans and the ground people dwelt most numerously. Though the Ions dwelt in both the warm and cold countries, for they clothed themselves and built habitations. But the Ahoans wore only a covering about the loins, neither built they any habitations, and they roved about far and near. But the ground people traveled not, and they mingled with their own kin, incestual, bringing forth heirs of darkness. The Ahoans learned the laws and obeyed them, and they looked upon the Ions, right, as a sacred people, doing them no harm. Now listen, this is key because I just told you they come in all shapes and sizes. Ions, Drux, Ahoans, big, medium, little, and everything in between. Watch this. And it came to pass that the Ahoans were very prolific people, 4 times more prolific than the Ions or the ground people. And they spread rapidly over the earth in the regions where the earth brought forth fruit, roots, and flesh and fish that were good to eat. For 2,000 years, the Ahoans prospered, and they became mighty in many countries. Right? Hold on. Right. Now let's go to the Lord's third book. Right? Lord's third book, chapter 1. Right? Let's start Let's start with 15. Right? They are the people of learning. They survey the land. They survey the way for the canals. They're talking about the iron, excuse me. But we know that the Ahuan actually built them. So how are the Ions doing all this surveying? The Ahuans outnumber them. The Ahuans do the work, because we go on to find out that it's people like King Lanu, the son of Tuga Haha, that's my boy, Tuga Haha, who built the canal. Yeah, the Iron found the way. He had the technology. He had the understanding. But the hard work was being put in by the Ahuans. But watch this. They find the square and the arch. And so you got to understand, this is not about color. This is not about size. This is about spiritual rate, the ability to perceive and conceive on a higher, or conceptualize, excuse me, on a higher level, right? This happened in all people. How do we know? The Ions mix with the Druks. The Ions mix with the Ahuans. The Ions mix with everybody. It's supposed to be an exclusive people, huh? We're going to get into this too. Y'all see how I'm talking about it. I ain't going to say nothing about it. Because we're going to break this whole down in another Jehovah Chronicles. Right? You can't rape a whole people into existence. If the Ion's smart and the Druk is dumb, who raised that child after the Druk or raped them? Remember, the Ions lived in certain cities, so half-breed children couldn't even come into the Ahuan cities. So who raised these half Ahuan, Iron, half Druk children? Did they just raise themselves? No mamas, no daddies? Do that sound logical? Not at all. Right? They led the Ahuan to the mines up here in Michigan, remember? Where lead and copper and silver are buried. These are a great people. Without them, the Ahuan could not build his own house. He could not find the level 4 canal, nor provide the square of his temple. Facts. But were the Ions all small guys? Let's clear it up. Let's clear it up, Cosmon. Let's clear it up. The Ions are the greatest people. Facts. My chosen have shapely legs and arms and feet and hands, and their hair groweth long and straight, white and yellow. Right? We ain't got to do the white and yellow thing again, right? Sheila broke that down the other day, right? We know. Okay. We ain't got to go there. All right? The Lord said, because the Ahuan, listen, is of all shapes and sizes, in all grades, and of all grades of judgment, even down to the ignorance of a beast, behold, he bringeth forth heirs of darkness. So he's small like the Ahuan, like the Iron. He big like the giant. He's smart like the Iron, but he can get as dumb as the beasts of the field. You dig what I'm talking about? Come unto the Lord, O ye that are chosen. Wasn't circumcision the sign of the chosen? Some of them Ahuans, them giant Nephilim, were too under Nimrod. Ye have built houses and temples for the Ahuans, but what avail are these things? Behold, they are at war. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation. They no longer hearken to my rabbis, the priest of my chosen. Go to now, ye shall build temples unto God. Right? So we wanted to get that understood. So when you start hearing things like giant, then you hear words like Raphaim, then you hear words like Nephilim, then you hear words like Titan, then you hear words like gods. That we are just talking about different admixed men stock. Just the genetic stock of men at the time, they were larger. The animals kingdom was larger. The air had more oxygen in it, allowing for the creation of these great beasts of old, right? You don't got to believe about me. You don't got to believe what I'm saying. Just tap in. Beast of old. Every religion talks about it. Every culture talks about it on every continent. And then you find out that when you look into it, there's always a man killing these beasts. Who out here killing stegosauruses? Y'all really believe that a man with a stick was killing a mammoth or a mastodon? A man with a little sharp stick on it, he gonna kill a mastodon. 18, 20 feet tall. 10 tons. What? Come on, man. Y'all got to see this. That's impossible. You dig what I'm talking about? Dig this. I want to show y'all about the anatomy of what they they got some people who conceptualize. You dig what I'm talking about? What they think these giants would have had to physically look like to actually live upon the earth. There has to be function in your form and form in your function. You dig what I'm talking about? The left, there's always a left to every right. You dig what I'm talking about? There's an up to every down, right? So I kind of want to get into this real quick, show y'all before we get and finish off the Book of the Wars of the Giants, right? The Titanomachy. Remember the Book of the Wars of the Giants is also mentioned in your biblical narrative. You dig what I'm talking about? Along with the Book of the Wars against Jehovih. You dig what I'm talking about? So there must be form to every function. So, to kind of make sense, I wanted to bring this little video out a few years ago, right? Really, about a few years ago, I really got on a giant kick. You know what I mean? I understood the small people, I understood the little people, the mound builder stock. In America, they are called the sheep. This is why you always see a big man with a little man. What's the name of the Olmec? They are called the Olmec sheep. What people don't know is that's two different people, the Olmec and the sheep. What are the people of the mounds called in Ireland? Huh? Y'all know? They're called the sheep. Spelled AIOT. A-I-O-U-X or A-I-O-X. She. People with the mounds. You dig what I'm talking about? In Europe. Huh? People of Ireland and Scotland. They know. And guess what a female she is called over there? A banshee. Ooh. Dig it. Right? I want to share my screen with y'all. Let me share. Stop being greedy and go and share. But I was on my giant kick, man, and I ran across this video, and you know, this came out probably about what year is this? 2017. This came out in 2017. So, like I said, 5-6 years ago, I've been on my kick. You dig what I'm saying? Because the giants are just fascinating to me. You dig what I'm talking about? So let me share this with y'all. This is about the biology of giants. Dig this.
Hey guys, I'm back. I first want to apologize for the.
This is all fair use. Hold on, let me go back on screen real quick. This is all fair use. Only used for educational purposes. You dig what I'm talking about? YouTube, don't kill my vibe. Please don't kill my vibe. You dig what I'm talking about? Because I'm out here just trying to edify the whole. It's for education purposes. What we say here on the Jehovah Chronicles. I'm not here to teach you what you know. I'm not here to teach you what you believe. I'm here to teach you what you don't know. You dig what I'm talking about? This is the biology of giants. Interesting little video, man. Check it out.
The massive break between videos. I'm much busier than I'd hope. And sadly,
let's move it a little far.
I've talked about speculative biology and speculative evolution, and I'd love to take another fictional organism and suggest a what-if scenario in which they could exist and how, and discuss all the interesting biomechanical and evolutionary factors that would go into that. And because I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones, I decided to make this one about giant humanoids. This is the biology of giants. Giants, colossi, and titans. Stories and legends of giant humans of great strength and size can be found in basically every culture around the globe. The most famous of them is likely the gargantuan Philistine, Goliath of Gath, who is recorded in the Hebrew biblical book of Samuel. In the legend, he is said to be one of the greatest warriors in the ancient world. However, the future Israelite king, David, remarkably was able to slay and decapitate him nonetheless. The exact height of the giant is uncertain, because although modern and more recent copies of the Book of Samuel state his height was 6 cubits in a span, or 9 feet 9 inches, or about 3 meters.
Hey, hold on. I'm looking in the chat real quick. Who is that has the name Creator Gang Gang? Yeah, I'm interested too. You gotta stop the live. Go ahead, throw it in the chat. Who are you, Creator Gang Gang? We can't see your thumbnail real good. Is that Sister Keyla in there? The Creator Gang Gang? Anyways, let's get to it. Anyway, let's get back to it, y'all.
The oldest copies, such as the Dead Sea Scrolls, the first historian Josephus, and the 4th century Septuagint manuscripts all claim Goliath was considerably shorter and had a much more realistic height, standing 4 cubits in a span, 6 feet 9 inches, or about 2 meters. About as tall as James Comey, and was still considered extremely tall for its time period. The almost 10-foot tall height was probably a much later change, either the result of a translation error over the centuries, or an intentional revision or alteration to make Goliath's defeat much more fantastical and epic. Whatever the answer is, it is lost to history. Other cultures speak of giants as well. One's much more forgotten. There were the Cyclopses of the Greeks, who lived on islands and were fond of cannibalism. There was Grendel of the Anglo-Saxons, a beast-like being that was said to be very terrible to look upon. There was the Datarabuchi of Japan, a colossal yokai that posed as mountains while they slept, and countless others. Even the first stories ever recorded by humans into clay contained giants. The Epic of Gilgamesh records the story of the great Sumerian king of Uruk, as well as a giant demigod and hero, Gilgamesh, as well as his adversary, the giant demon of the cedar forest, Humbaba, whose face in some translations was like stirring intestines, and whose penis was a venomous serpent. Both Humbaba and Gilgamesh were very prevalent in early lore and mythologies, and can be considered the very first Harry Potter and Voldemort, or Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader of the ancient world. Depictions of both giants can be found everywhere in dig sites and temples in Mesopotamia, Babylon, and Sumer. The once canonical biblical Book of Giants even mentions Gilgamesh and Humbaba in passing as two of the giant Nephilim, or the offspring of lesser gods or angels and mortal women that existed before the flood. This book was once considered just as much a part of the Bible as Exodus or Genesis, but has since been disowned. One can only imagine how interesting Sunday school teachings about Humbaba would be. With so many stories of giants tracing all the way back to ancient history, one might think these beings might have even existed, but in contrary to many Photoshopped pictures claim, archaeological and scientific evidence has so far shown no indication that supports the existence
Smithsonians
of these
take
giant human
everything,
beings. And it is likely they
especially in
were
America.
the truth, if not based on imagination.
They hide this history.
Gigantism was in fact often used to either glorify someone as the descendant of the gods, or demonize them as an aberration against nature, so it's no surprise some people would try to make them up. And regardless of how fictional they are, to this day, giants still exist in our stories and culture, in our books, in our video games, in our movies.
You must think. Once you understand the creator and you understand that man is always inspired, you also understand that man ain't came with a thought of his own goddamn self ever. Never. Man ain't came up with nothing on his own. Who could have? Why would you think of a giant? It doesn't make sense. Well, where do you even get the reference from if there weren't? You dig what I'm talking about? People can be smart and still be unintelligent. You dig what I'm talking about? Dig it.
And in our TV shows. When you think about it, giants are as much a part of our culture today as they used to be. There's just something about massive, towering versions of ourselves that inspire awe and fear into us. But I'd like to still ask, what if humans evolved to a much greater height and size? What would they look like? And what implications would that have on our biology, anatomy, and evolution? Well, that's why I'm here, isn't it? Okay, so first off is if humans are even capable of reaching giant heights. The tallest a humanoid ever got in all of history that was verifiable by science was 8 foot 11 inches. The man's name was Robert Wadlow, and he lived for only about 22 years, from the early to mid 1900s. Robert was massive and towered high above literally every human being that ever existed, that we know of anyway. His unusual height, as is the case in most giant humans, was due to an overproduction or hypersecretion of human growth hormone, produced by a tumor in his pituitary gland, which resulted in abnormal growth from childhood and typically well into adulthood. The hormone is overproduced and as a result does not tell the body to stop growing at a certain point, as it does in normal humans. In fact, some giants don't even show signs of stopping growth before their death. Robert, for instance, would have grown taller. It might have become the real version of the fantastical 9-foot Goliath if it weren't for his death. Additionally, gigantism seems to sometimes be passed down genetically as a mutant gene. So, it's certainly possible for a branch of humans, if it be Homo sapiens or our close relatives of the same genus, to possibly break off and evolve a greater height. I'm just going to say one of 10 to 14 feet tall, or about 4 meters, like in Game of Thrones. The only issue is staying alive to reach it. The main problem with giants is the fact that the human body is specifically evolved for a certain height limit. Probably somewhere around 2 meters or 6 foot 5-ish is where our anatomy starts to reach its physical limit. Our specific proportions, organs, musculature, bones, etc. are best suited for an average human height. Anything higher than that, and our body is put under much more stress and starts to break down. And that is why so many giants, the vast majority of them, are riddled with health issues, and sadly, why they typically die so young. Almost all giant humans suffer from a myriad of circulatory, skeletal,
Peace
and
to you, Sister
muscular
Misha.
issues, with most of these stemming from the fact that their heart is put under an extreme amount of stress than normal, and must work double, if not triple, if not more, to fight against the pull of gravity, and simply the large amount of space they must transport blood to. Another big problem is the massive amount of extra weight put on muscles and bones. The square cube law has to do with the relationship between volume and an area of a shape. I'm simplifying it, but all you need to know is that when a shape increases its size, let's just say this cube doubles its height, that doesn't mean the cube's volume is doubled. Its volume, in actuality, is 8 times as big as it was earlier. The volume of an object grows much faster than its height. The square cube law is especially significant when we are discussing giants, as it is important to understand that with each and every foot we increase to the human height, the weight of this hypothetical human increases exponentially. For instance, let's just say we have a 6-foot-tall man who weighs 170 pounds. Using the square cube law, if we wanted to have a proportional human who was 10 feet tall, he would weigh somewhere around 8 times as much. That massive amount of weight is now putting pressure on bones that only evolved to support a weight 170 pounds, and certainly not enough surface area to distribute that weight. Such weight has the capacity to break bones, and is the reason why so many giants require leg braces and canes to combat the downward pull of gravity on their bodies. If we continue to increase the height higher and higher, we will get to a point where the human body shape and proportions would simply be entirely unable to be capable of leaning upright and standing up.
But what he don't understand, y'all, what is he missing? He don't understand the creator, huh? And his perfect mechanism. So if there was a man, right, just like you perfectly made for today, those of the ancient times would have been perfectly made for the earth then, right? No different. Also, remember, you got to remember this. Where the earth was 25,000 years ago is not the same place in the galaxy, in the solar system, where it was then. The atmospheric makeup, the terrain was not always the same. The weather patterns was not always the same. You dig what I'm talking about? Y'all got to remember this. So take this into account when you listen to people's stories. You know what I mean? But this is interesting. Check it out. He not wrong what he's saying, but he's trying to fit that 1,300 pounds onto 170 pound bones. No, you gotta put them 1,300 pound bones in that 1,300 pound body to get that weight up there. You dig what I'm talking about? It must be proportionate. Up to every down, left to every right, right? Creator don't miss nothing. Don't make no mistakes, right? Okay, then. Let's get to it.
Up even briefly, as they quite literally would collapse right under their own weight. The only way to combat such an issue is to grow thicker bones and stronger muscles to compensate. But we run into a bit of a paradox here, as the thicker bones and muscles would add more weight, and thus require thicker bones and stronger muscles, and so on. Less necessary body parts and organs that contribute to the weight would need to be sacrificed to make room for bones and muscles.
Would it?
I will talk about that later.
Nope.
You see, because of this, giants wouldn't look exactly like a normal human. Shape, proportion, and other physical traits would need to be sacrificed for maintaining such a size. Unlike most depictions of giants, real 10-foot tall to 14-foot tall humanoids wouldn't look like regular humans with the same exact proportions, just scaled up. Humans would have to change their figure significantly. As evolution has shown us, certain adaptations are necessary for maintaining large sizes, which have developed in the animal kingdom several times independently. First of all,
did you see that the man looked just like a yak?
Or column-like.
Huh?
Humans are at a disadvantage against other
what
animals.
They call a Bigfoot?
Because as bipeds, we must be able to put all our body weight to be distributed on a single leg at a time, simply because of the way we walk.
You think that's a mistake? It would probably be
the best if these giants had elephantine or sauropod-like legs that were very thick-boned and muscled. Other parts of the body, like the spinal column, abdominal region, etc., would need to be reinforced and would probably be just like the legs, thicker and wider in order to spread the weight more horizontally across a wider surface area instead of vertically on a smaller surface area.
We have seen bones like this, massive bones.
Hefty. The feet themselves would need to be like the legs, much more pillar or elephantine in shape. Unlike our long and narrow feet, the bases of these humanoids would need to be stubbier and more circular, just like the extremities of many real-life giants throughout history, like the sauropods, as well as plenty of other dinosaurs, elephants, rhinos, giraffes, etc., etc. The heart would definitely need to increase in strength and size momentously to cope with the newfound gravitational demands. The
Yep.
hearts of giraffes can weigh 25 pounds and be 2 feet long and must maintain double the amount of blood pressure in order to survive than humans.
Now look
The
how
hearts of
big that
elephants
heart
are
is, right?
26 to 46 pounds.
We got pictures of giant men on the walls in Mesopotamia and in Egypt, tall as the giraffes, taller. Looking the giraffe in his face. You dig what I'm talking about? So we see these things in creation, right? And understanding that man was created from everything that preceded him. That is the plant and animal kingdom. Don't they say you got a reptile mind? Huh? Even when you're born in a baby, you breathe amniotic fluid. Fish-like. I'm just saying, we see these things in creation. Is it so hard to believe that the creator who created the sun, the galaxy, the moon, the stars, could get it right? Let's get back to it.
And their blood vessels must be wide and thick to withstand the large amount of pressure put on them. Giraffes and other giant animals additionally have a complex pressure regulatory system in their bodies, one of them being called the rete mirabile, which prevents excess blood flow to the brain when they lower their heads. Adaptations like this protect the animal from possibly fatal disturbances. Anyone who has been lying down and got up too fast knows this dizzy, disorientating feeling. However, on a giraffe or larger animal, it could be very deadly. Additionally, because there is so much pressure caused by the great amount of fluid weighing down on them, the blood vessels in the legs of giraffes are covered in thick, extremely tight layer of skin that prevents too much blood from pouring out of them when they are injured or cut. Perhaps the giant human would need a bunch of these adaptations to survive as well. These structures, as said before, would add an excess amount of weight onto the pre-existing weight problem. To solve this paradox, the simple solution is to lose the weight that is not necessary and only save the bare minimum. Brain size would probably be the first up. Some mental capabilities not necessary for survival would need to be weeded out of the population, and consequently the large cranium size of Homo sapiens along with it. The arms and upper body strength would perhaps additionally shrink proportionally to the rest of the body. Fingers, wingspan, etc. might be stubbier to account for this conservation of weight. In summary,
or would the arms be longer and the legs shorter?
Specially evolved
as Owaspie
explained, pressure and equilibrium in the circulatory system. Thicker bones and stronger muscles would need to be necessary for
the creator says, man ways are not my ways.
And have thick column-like legs, abdominals, and feet. Brain size would need to shrink alongside several other adaptations to shrink the overall weight down as much as possible. This hypothetical race of 10 to 14 foot tall giants, I will call Homo goliathos, would be a people that were built wider than normal humans in their proportions, and would probably look like stretched out and distorted men and women. They would be a simple, not so sophisticated culture due to the reduction of brain size, probably more in line with the intelligence of Homo erectus and other early humans, as opposed to Homo sapiens and probably even Neanderthals, probably at very best using sticks and stone tools. However, they would be an incredibly imposing species, capable of delivering an unbelievably powerful kick, and would be easily able to crush a man under their immense weight and strength. If giant humans of this size ever evolved, which they could have if the environmental conditions favored early hominids to do so, it would look something like this. Also, it's important to understand that these proportions, I theorize, are for only a giant humanoid of 10 to 14 feet of height. Different heights would require different adaptations and specifications. The rule of thumb is the taller your giant, the more and more traits and shapes would be sacrificed for supporting the weight, and the less quote-unquote human they would look. A giant more in line with those of the Titans.
This is your 66.6.
Who knows? Two legs might not even
mark
be
of the
able
beast
to
and the number of man
at all, and they might need to revert to a quadrupedal stance. And organisms of this size probably would need bones composed of an entirely different substance than collagen and calcium. At the end of the day, it's just important to not make the same mistake of our ancestors by believing giant humanoids would simply be scaled-up versions of humans with the same proportions and everything. Giant humans wouldn't look like this, but something like this. Giant animals have specific adaptations for their lifestyles. and it's more complicated than they're scaling it up. Now, looking back to Game of Thrones, I gotta say, their giants are, well, surprisingly scientifically accurate.
Yeah.
One and his peoples are freaking great accuracy-wise, with a much more squatter appearance, thick column-like limbs, and elephantine-like feet. They even seem to have given the giants in the world of ice and fire reduced intelligence and brain size, which makes sense for an animal that probably wouldn't need smarts to survive, when it could rely on its size entirely. I can hardly say the same for other media. The Titans from Attack on Titan, for instance, are absolutely terrible, biomechanically and anatomically speaking. All the Titans would be crushed under the pressure. This isn't something limited to Attack on Titans. Most giants in media fail, biologically speaking, entirely. It would be awesome if more movies and shows took a more scientific approach and put some deeper thought into their giant designs. I'd love to see as much, if not more, attention to detail put into giant humanoids like those in Game of Thrones in the future. So Hollywood, give me some more biologically sound giants. It could be vastly more interesting and creative. While I'm on the subject, I might as well briefly discuss quadrupedal and non-humanoid giants as well, like King Kong. Again, the situation is similar to giant humanoids. Scaling a smaller organism up to be massive with the same exact proportions and everything isn't scientifically accurate. It simply wouldn't work. Certain adaptations and evolutionary sacrifices are necessary to maintain such a large height and size. Some of them the same with giant humanoids, such as larger and stronger heart, a bunch of the other organs that are maintain the circulatory system and blood pressure, and column-like legs and feet. Now, convergent evolution has shown us many times throughout history that organisms of truly massive height, somewhere or maybe along the lines of King Kong, consistently have evolved the same body shape and design independently. Sauropods, introcatheres, and other animals evolved a similar shape and anatomy. It seems likely that an actual giant ape around the size of King Kong wouldn't look like this, but like this. So yeah, learn some science pop culture, and just look at the biomechanics and evolution to see what real giants, giant humanoids or whatnot, would look like. It would definitely yield some very super interesting results and concepts that I would love to see. And with that, this was Truth Explainer, and thanks for watching. Before I go, I'd just like to say this video idea was partly inspired, if not mostly inspired, by the Planet Piranha blog post about the subject, and it greatly interested me. The author of the blog writes some extremely interesting articles and discussions about biology, biomechanics, and evolution, so I would definitely suggest
we're gonna get into this too, man. The Furhan biology.
Again, sorry for the massive wait. Please accept my apology in the form of this colorized photo of a quagga made by me. All right? See you guys next time.
So, with that being said, I just wanted y'all to give you a little idea, you know, so the more you can conceptualize, you know what I mean, the more you can see.
All tomorrows, a billion-year chronicle of the myriad species and mixed fortunes of man.
Okay, my bad. Right? So, take into account that water could have been different. You know what I mean? They say water has what? It's either 46 or 92 minerals in it. Seawater even having more chemical base in it than fresh water. All right? So we always just want to, you know, put a little idea in your mind's eye, allow you to, you know, come to your own ideas, because we're not asking nobody to believe nothing, but I'm going to show you why I believe what I believe. You dig what I'm talking about and why I know what I know. Now let's get back to part 3, right? Jehovah Chronicles, your boy Nimrod and King Og, supposedly the last of the Rephaim. You dig what I'm talking about? And these are some of the people who are with him. You know, we left off last time. These are the giants coming to fight with him, you know, on his side against Nimrod and his nation. Didn't they tell you the giant men went to war, tribe against tribe, nation against nation? Check this out. I'm gonna give you this little understanding too. Baal is Odin, the one-eyed God. So just remember the day praising God, Baal, right? They praising El Adonai, Baal. They praising Shamash and Molech. So all Baal. You dig what I'm talking about? They're praising Odin and Cernunnos, Marduk, Heru. So all Baal. He's also the false Apollo of Greek fame. Check this guy out. Balor, with black hair and one good eye. Balor, whose single eye perceived the weaknesses of his enemies. In battle, Balor was unstoppable. Balor, whose good eye was a blessing of Baal of the moon. Who else had one eye? In Odin, called Old One Eye. Didn't he give that eye to be able to have all-seeing perception? Huh? Balor, whose good eyes was a blessing of Baal of the moon, and it could go perceive the weakness of his enemies. Ain't that what Odin's eye did? Gave him thought, what they call thought, forethought. Also described as ravens. You dig what I'm talking about? But check this out. Check this out. We're gonna go for it. Balor, who only spoke in dark sayings. Balor, whose incantation to Baal of the earth could move a mountain to the sea. What is going on? But our ancient ancestors did say all things have a spirit. What if there is an quote unquote incantation that can be chanted to or used a sound, right? They said an incantation, so it must be spoken, a sound that manipulates the chemical basis of different parts of corporality. So what I'm saying is, what if you had a pine and a purse that generated vortexian sound in the perfect pitch that changed the molecular structure of certain things around them? It would make sense in polygonal building, right? Where they got these dumb massive buildings, right? They got these dumb massive buildings, and they're like put together like Play-Doh because they're not all straight. Some of the blocks are like this, but then it has a 20-ton block over it, smush right on top of it, and then another block on the side of it, and it's not all straight square rectangle bricks. These are massive 200-ton, 100-ton, 20-ton, 40, 50, 60, 70, 100-ton blocks that they just throwing around like Play-Doh. So, right? I forget, right? In the Bible, right? There's a place in the Bible where they say, the man goes to the mountain and he tells the mountain to move, and the mountain moves out of his way. Anybody know what that verse is? Mountain, get out my way. Huh? But they say he had an incantation that could move the mountains into the sea. How do you move a mountain? You obviously change what it is. And with that, you could possibly turn it light as a feather and push it. What would stop it? In the air, nothing. And then you could stop your pine in your purse, right? You could stop your pine in your purse, and it will solidify again and drop right into the ocean. Just a thought. You know what I mean? We just try to put it together. You know, we read everything and then try to make it make sense when you lay it against the truth, right? Balor's incantation, the ball of the earth could move a mountain into the sea. Balor also said, if I am indeed a servant of Baal of the sun, then let fire come down from on high and consume the Nephilim. And fire did come down and did consume 50 Nephilim. Balor, who prophesied of the coming great waters. Balor, whose single eye had no pity upon the Nephilim. For Nimrod's kingdom was Og's. Balor's army was 2,000 giants. Hanres, the hairy priest of Mot. Hanres, who did not worship Mot in secret. Hanres, who walked with Mot as a companion and visited his kingdom. Hanres, whose dark ones were such that he was as a whirlwind looks, and as a whirlwind turns. Let's get a picture of the whirlwind real quick. Let's get a picture of the whirlwind. Let's see if we can find this. See if I can find a picture of the whirlwind. Let me see. Let me see if I can go in here. Okay. Let me try to find a picture of a whirlwind. Or it's another one I could use right here. I wonder how you make things small. You know what I mean? Put them on the screen. I see the brother Sela do that. You dig what I'm talking about? And he make things small on the screen and then allows to put the picture up. You dig what I'm talking about? I gotta figure out how to do that. You know what I mean? And oh man, this dope. Oh man. Oh, I want to show y'all this. Hold on. Let me show y'all this. This dope right here. Jeremiah 10:13. That's why American gods. Odin was the chief god. Correct. Odin is Baal. Y'all ready, y'all? Mark 11. Where is my Bible? Do I have a Bible here? I do have a study Bible. Mark 11:23. Let me show y'all this real quick. Y'all can see that. Get up here. Okay. We're going to keep the sound down. Right? And just play it. Right? And we're just going to play it, right? Okay. Now this is Honrus, whose dark ones were such that he was as a whirlwind looks, and as a whirlwind turns. Honrus, who swore thoughtlessly with his lips to only do evil. Honrus, who mock told of the great waters. Honrus, whose method of destruction on the field of battle brought a fear to the uncircumcised. Honrus, who had the eyes of certain death. Honrus, whose comprehension of the dark ones was complete. He was completely, utterly taken over in evil. Honrus' army was 2,000 giants. They say he swung around on the battlefield as if he was a whirlwind. You dig what I'm talking about? Look at that. He's spinning around the battle. It said how he fought. It struck fear into the Nephilim. They was terrified of this man because of his fighting style. I'm sure he had some type of massive blades or axes in his hand, and he just you dig what I'm talking about? Coming through, chopping up stuff. You dig what I'm talking about? Knocking it down, coming through, knocking pictures off the wall. You dig what I'm talking about? Look at this. Check this out. Hold on. Come through spinning like a whirlwind. You dig what I'm talking about? Crazy. Say come through spinning like a whirlwind. Right? Botus. Father. We just read about Balor, right? Right? We read about Balor with the one eye, right? This is his father, Botus. Dang. Botus, father of Balor. Botus, whose wisdom was afforded by Ball of the Moon. Baltus, who spoke of the nature of things and saw all unseen truth. Does that mean he could see spirit? We also know there's only one who can and is and did perceive all the seen and the unseen. If y'all know who that is, give me a big Jehovah. Give me a big vortex in the chat. If y'all know that it's only the Creator, right, who can perceive all the seen and all the unseen, right? Let me get a big Let me get a big vortex in the chat. You dig what I'm talking about? Throw your tornadoes up, throw your whirlwinds up, throw your vortexes up. If y'all know for a fact, it's only the Creator who can perceive everything seen and unseen. Huh? He say that. He say that, verse 1. Book of Jehovih. You dig what I'm talking about? Book of Jehovih, verse 1. Let me show you. He said, I am, and comprehended all things, the seen and the unseen, nor is there aught in all the universe but what is part of him. So you must take things, everything, with a grain of salt. So what are they saying when they say Botus who spoke of the nature of things and saw all unseen truth? Was he able to get down to the core of a thing? That's right, vortex in the house. We still spinning in this thing. You dig what I'm talking about? Does it really mean that he knew and saw all the unseen truths? No. You dig what I'm talking about? More what they're talking about is that he could see spiritual things. He was a suis. Understand? Right? Botus, whose heavy beard rested over his shoulders. Botus, who created a strange fire that lifted up towards ball of the sun regularly. Botus, who pronounced a curse upon the circumcised Nephilim in the name of ball of the earth, and 42 untamable female bears entered the field of battle and mauled the Nephilim till they died. Botus, who was beheaded and cannibalized on the field of battle. Send them bear, you send that bear, you know what I mean? Kill my cat. Botus' army was 5,000 giants. Yathat, keeper of the smaller cells. Yathat, whose charge it was to determine the smaller cells to be slaughtered by Anzal. Remember, Anzal is the second scribe writing this text. Because remember, Anak already got killed. You dig what I'm talking about? 1 second. Excuse me. Right? This guy, you thought he is the dude who chose which human was going to be slaughtered. He looked over the babies, make sure, you know what I mean? Oh, this one's spotless, clean. He looking at them like they puppies. Yeah, we can kill that one. You know what I mean? This one got a crippled leg. We can't get that one the ball. He'll trip out. You dig what I'm talking about? This one good. Oh, you got the cross eye. No. Your head. You a big head, baby. Go ahead. Ball might like you. He was determining who get killed and put on the sacrificial thing. Didn't what they tell you in the Nazarene text? Stay away from sacrifice meat. Meat sacrificed to the gods. Why? Much of it is men meat. Pause. You dig what I'm talking about? But human flesh. Since ancient times. And you think they stopped? The descendants of these people still live on earth. Okay. You thought who was charged it was to determine the smaller cells to be slaughtered by Anzal. Yathah of dark eyes and dark hair. Yathah, who lifted his eyes to heaven and saw the sun, moon, and stars, and all of the host of heaven, and he worshipped and served Baal in all of those things. Yathah, who was close to his brother Anak. Yathah is Anak's brother. Oh. Yathah, who taught the Rephaim how to make war with the driver and chaser. So we find the inventor of the driver and chaser earlier. Go back, check out Nimrod 2. We tell you about who created the driver and chaser. And now we find the guy who actually teaches the arts of the driver and chaser, right? And how to bend a bow of bronze. You got to be strong to do that. Yathah, who had the eyes of certain death. Yathah, who growled as he killed. Yathah's army was 2,000 giants. This Anak brother. Movesh, who hated his fellow giants like a sickness. Movesh, who prophesied of the unspoken mistake. Movesh, who hated the giants because they should have confirmed the prophecy that would end their species. Movesh, who knew the giants' time was short. Movesh, who prophesied the coming of the great waters. Movesh, who was consumed by jealous dark ones that caused him to scar himself continually. You ever met one of them little kids that, people who cut themselves all the time on their arms? And that's a dark one. That's a Jujan spirit on them that causes them to do that. Movet, who worshiped Mot openly and was a brother to Botis. So this Balor uncle. So Botis and Movet are brothers, and Botis' son Balor is in this thing too, and that's Movet's nephew. Wow, crazy. This is nuts, man. Now, I read this before, right? Like 1 or 2 times, but I ain't gonna front to you. It's something dark on this book. You got to put it down and pray on it, because once you read it, you can tell he's not lying. Now, I'm not saying that the scribes didn't get to it, certain stuff wasn't twisted up, or I'm talking about the overall theme of the story. He's not lying. This is basis for a real event. We showed that we get some of this history down through Greek history and the Titanomachy, right? There's another war, though. There's another one. We're going to show that one too, right? So we see Anak brother, Molech and Botis his brothers, Yathah and Anak his brothers, and we got their nephew, Balor, all ready to put it down, right? Movek, who summoned unspeakable beast of Mot upon the field of battle that killed many circumcised and uncircumcised alike. They ain't care. Once you called them, somebody got the dad. You dig what I'm talking about? Movek, who attacked the Nephilim mightily until his hand was weary and would not loosen the sword. So his hand, you ever been so tight gripped on hold of something that when you try to let it go, you can't open up your hand? So he was fighting hard, right? Movek, who died as a hero of old on the field of battle. Wait a minute. Whoa. Hold on, let me go back. My bad. Movek, who attacked the Nephilim mightily until his hand was weary and would not loosen the sword. Movek, who died as a hero of old on the field of battle. Movek's army was 500 giants. Jotun. Uh-oh. We know about the Jotun guy. Let me pull this up right. Let me get into this right. Let me show you Jotun. Let me see if I can find something on this. Uh-oh. The Jotnar. The Jotnar are the children of Jotun. Huh? What? Let me show y'all. Let me just get so you can get a picture, right, of really what's going on. You dig what I'm talking about? Now, they may not be this big, but I'm sure they physically massive. You dig what I'm talking about? So, and they would have looked like that to these regular people. You dig what I'm talking about? Let me show y'all something real quick. They talking about Jotun, right? Spelled the same. Jotun. Jotun. Watch this. And the Jotun are talked about historically before we ever had this book. You dig what I'm talking about? So we just tying it in historically. You dig what I'm talking about? And we're going to let you see what they say about it. You dig what I'm talking about? Dig this, right? All fair use, y'all. All fair use.
The Jotnar are the giants of Norse mythology. They dwell in the kingdom of Jotunheim, one of the 9 great Nordic kingdoms. These creatures appeared at the beginning of times. Their ancestors emerged from the axles of Ymir and started to populate the kingdom of Niflheim. Nevertheless, after the rise of the Aesir gods, the rivalry between gods and giants started. Odin and his brothers fought bloody battles against the Jotnar. But the biggest blow against the giants happened when the gods killed Ymir, and the blood-torn drowned all the giants of Niflheim. Only Bergelmir and his wife survived, and they were responsible to repopulate the world with giants. The giants have plenty of brute force, but they were generally described as simple and intellectually limited creatures. But there are exceptions, like Vafthrudnir. There are several kinds of giants, but the ones who stand out are the giants of ice, fire, and the giants of the mountains. Despite the rivalry between gods and giants, love relationships between them are not rare. The god of the seas, Njordr, married the giant Skati. Freya was in love with Gerthor, and even Odin and Thor were involved with female giants. In turn, male giants were in love with the beautiful goddess Freya. Thor, the god of thunder, was known as the killer of giants due to the large number of giants killed by the hero in his several quests. The giants are destined to fight against the gods during Ragnarok, which is sort of a Nordic apocalypse, where the presence of suitors stands out, a powerful giant of fire from Muspelheim, who during the battle will leave the entire world in flames. The Jotnar symbolize nature's destructive and indomitable power.
Hold on, let me go back a little bit. Let me go back a little bit on this. Let me go back. All right. I want to show y'all. I think I pressed the wrong video. That was a good video, though. You dig what I'm talking about? Talking about the Jotnar. You know what I mean? Really, the children of Jotun. Right? But we're going to get into Jotun himself. You know what I mean? We want to get into Jotun himself. Okay. Yeah. Let's see what they saying match up with anything and what we about to say. Right? Let's read. Jotun, from the cold lands of elsewhere, Jotun, whose flowing yellow hair and piercing eyes brought fear to all who looked upon him. Jotun, who wore the pelts of unknown beasts. Jotun, who sacrificed daily to Baal of the sun. Jotun, who was able to arouse the anger of the Baal of the sun and call down large stones of fire. Did we just looked at this?
And his wife survived, and they were responsible to repopulate the
Okay. I hate commercials, y'all. I'm sorry.
There are many different entities that appear in Norse and Germanic folklore, and today we'll be discussing the Jotnar, what many consider to be the race of giants. And although that may be correct for some Jotnar, not every Jotun is a giant. The word Jotun or Jotnar for referring to Norse one came from the Old Norse.
Let me go ahead and let me finish reading this real quick, and then I'm gonna share on Jotun real quick, right? Jotun, who wore the pelts of unknown beasts. Jotun, who sacrificed daily to Baal of the sun. Jotun, who was able to arouse the anger of Baal of the sun and call down large stones of fire against his enemies. Jotun, who drank a potion of Enceladus and lost himself to the dark ones for 8 seasons. Jotun, who helped to tear down Nimrod's high places of Baal worship. Jotun, who killed Nimrod's sons, whose names will not be mentioned, to blot them from the earth. Jotun's army was 500 giants. That's deep. They ain't mentioning, so he ain't mentioning his sons. Right? He ain't mentioning the nigga's sons because he hated him that much.
Folklore, and today we'll be discussing the Jotnar, what many consider to be the race of giants. And although that may be correct,
these are the offspring of Jotun.
Is a giant.
Look how what they remember they said he wore the pelts of unknown beasts and that he was from the cold lands.
which came from a Proto-Germanic word meaning to consume or to devour. Now, as for the assumption that every Jotun is a giant, that story is quite long and spans across numerous cultures, so I'll try and summarize it as best I can. The word that we use today in English to refer to a giant comes from the French géant, which became part of the English language in the year 1066 BCE when William the Conqueror took control of England. The French word géant refers to the giants of Greek mythology, and we know they didn't have the best relationship with their deities. So is it possible there was a comparison drawn between the giants of Greek mythology and the Jotnar of Norse mythology, based on the fact that some of them were giant in size and hated their respected deities? Well, yeah, it's entirely possible that that may have caused some confusion. So if you are someone who genuinely gets upset about the Jotnar being referred to as giants, then you can blame the ancient Greeks, the French, the British, the Marvel Universe, and the new God of War. A lot of people to be angry at. So if the Jotnar aren't the same as giants, but they aren't quite gods, then what exactly are they? What makes a Jotun a Jotun? That in itself is a difficult question to answer simply. The first being to exist after the creation of the universe was the giant Ymir, the father of giants who also happens to be a Jotun. So the Jotnar are technically the first race of Norse mythology. The first god to appear was Bori, the grandfather of Odin. Now during this period the Jotnar and the gods lived in harmony, and the races married and had children together. Bori had a son named Bor, who then married Bestia, a Jotun. So Odin and his two brothers are in fact part Jotun. The exact percentage we don't really know because the
Buri and
circumstances
Bor
surrounding the birth
be
of Bor
Anu
are
and
very
Osir?
ambiguous. But if we assume that Bor was 100% god,
Remember,
then Odin and his
Baal is
siblings are at the
Odin.
very least 50% Jotun. This is important because Odin had many children from many different mothers, and that would make all of them part Jotun. If we take a look at the most famous example, Thor, his mother was a Jotun woman, which of course would make Thor 75% or 3/4 Jotun, which is quite ironic, for reasons we'll discuss a bit later. The point I'm trying to make here is that Thor and Odin are perhaps the most famous gods to come from Norse mythology, and Odin is only half god, while Thor is actually more Jotun than god. So when did this conflict between god and Jotun begin? As tensions grew between the two races, it would be the actions of Odin and his two brothers, Vili and Ve, that would change the dynamic of the cosmos forever. The three brothers would then slay Ymir, and from his body much of the cosmos and the Norse world was created. This is where we really distinguish between god and Jotun, and even between the gods themselves. The three brothers were considered the first of the Aesir tribe, despite all those that came before them. In a way, this is quite similar to what we see with the Olympians, who were granted their title because they rebelled against their ancestors. With the 9 worlds and much of the Norse cosmos now formed, the split between god and Jotnar began. Those who followed Odin and his brothers would then make Asgard their new home. The Jotnar who disagreed with Odin would then make their home in Jotunheim, a vast, unforgiving and inhospitable land, where winter never ceases. This description of a harsh, icy wasteland could definitely be another reason why some believed all Jotnar to be frost giants. In reality, the Jotnar are quite a versatile race. Some of them are indeed giant in size, but some of them can also alter the way they look. Loki being the most famous example, transforming into several different animals and objects. They can also be described as extremely ugly, or like the giantess Skadi, they can be described as extremely beautiful. So if they don't always resemble giants, and they have similar supernatural abilities to the Norse deities, then how do we really distinguish between them? Appearance is evidently quite misleading, because at first glance you'd assume Odin, Thor and Loki to be just gods, but technically you'd be wrong about all three. One of the main beliefs in the differences between them was that the Jotnar were never worshipped in the same way that the Aesir and the Vanir were. This may have been true for certain periods in time, but we know that Skadi was worshipped by the Vikings, and even today has become part of some neo-paganistic circles. so the Jotun not being worshipped wasn't and isn't always the case. The simplest way to distinguish between the two is in the way they behave and what they represent. It's fairly common for the Jotun to be shown as chaotic and destructive forces, but what they really represent is the period of chaos before creation. If we go back to the first ever being created, Ymir, he was born when the fires of Muspelheim met the ice of Niflheim. In the chaos that led to Ymir being slain, we then have the creation of the cosmos from his decaying body.
Basically, the story of Uranus and Cronus.
The eternal struggle between God and Jotun. The Jotun wanting to sink the world into chaos to create a new one, and the gods wanting to contain them and prevent this from ever happening. With Ragnarok in this final chaotic battle, the world is not destroyed, it's essentially reborn. This can be interpreted as the Jotun finally avenging the fallen Ymir, or it can be seen as the cycle that began with the death of Ymir finally coming to an end, only for a new one to begin. This unruly nature is why Jotunheim is also at times referred to as Utgard, which roughly means beyond the fence. Those inside the fence are considered law-abiding individuals, and those outside are chaotic and untamed, which is why at times you may see the preface of Utgard before a Jotun's name. This is also why the gods built a wall around Asgard, to stop the Jotun and other enemies invading. Now, not every Jotun is seen as a destructive force, but that is what most represent and personify. So let's begin with the most famous Jotun, who also happens to be the biggest enemy of the Jotun, everybody's favourite angry hammer-wielding gingerman, Thor. As we mentioned earlier, Thor was 75% or 3/4 Jotun, but that certainly didn't mean he felt any compassion whatsoever towards his kin. Thor was one of the primary protectors of Asgard and Midgard. Wherever the Jotun were causing trouble, Thor was there to put an end to it. One of my favourite stories is when Thor's hammer was stolen. After asking around, Loki discovered that the hammer was in fact stolen by Thrym, the king of Jotunheim, who would only trade the hammer if he was given the goddess Freya as a bride. As the main defender of Asgard, Thor not having Mjolnir,
we know what's about to happen after this part, right?
After a long
Thor about to put that dress on.
The idea of Thor dressing up as Freya in order to trick the Jotun king.
Yeah. So we know what happens after that. Right? I can't make this stuff line up. It just do. Objective, subjective truths, historical, empirical data, logic and common sense against what we commonly know. That's the only way you can, that's the scientific method. That's the only way you can prove anything. You dig what I'm talking about? They said that the Jotun was from the cold regions. And remember, when this text was originally written, right, it was written before the time of what we would call the 23rd art cycle, or before we would call the time of the Abrahamic religions. So it's not like the Catholics made this story up looking back. No, the story already existed, and the Catholics wrote it down and kept it. Right? Let's go to the next one. And there's a book about giants called is it Gargantua. Go look at it's an old book, and it's written in a very odd style, but look what they're saying about these giants and what's going on. And you dig what I'm talking about? It was like it was regular. So I don't know, man. What I do know is that there's a whole lot of history we don't know. That's what I can tell you, the honest God truth. Look at this next guy. Gantua. Gargantuan. Gantua. From the cold lands. He from up there in Europe somewhere, Siberia, Russia. He from up there too. You dig what I'm talking about? Northern Europe on the islands, cold lands. He also may be from Northern Canada region. Who knows? Also, what we do know is that our current poles, right, in Antarctica and the North Pole, right, just got there 24,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. What y'all forget? Eighth punch the side of the planet in? Would you forgot that your planet oscillates and rolls on itself? Gantua, from the cold lands of elsewhere. Gantua, who wrestled mightily with the great beast in the blood pits of ball of the earth. Where are these blood pits? They're probably everywhere. You know what I mean? But they had great beasts in the blood pits. And dog used to wrestle them. Could you imagine fighting a saber-tooth billy goat? You got some mess on it. You dig what I'm talking about? Down in the blood pits. A saber-tooth cat for real. Think about it. He massive too. He about 6 feet tall. At the head. Big. He big. Big old teeth. And you know what I mean? And Gantua, who called down fire from ball of the sun and did not receive it. Remember the story when Elijah went up against the priest of Baal? And they were supposed to call down fire out the sky? Could this be one of them tales where he actually, as in revealed in a Waspi, I believe in the book of Esdras. I believe it's the book of Esdras. And where the angels of the Most High came and held the angels of Baal from doing anything, right? And then Elijah called down fire. Boom. We know the rest of that story. You dig what I'm talking about? But that was interesting, right? Because they called and didn't get it. Gantua, who worshiped Baal in a wrong fashion and was promised every abomination before earth. Gantua, while strong of flesh, was weak of spirit and mind. Gantua, of whom the dark ones avoided. Dude, you terrible if the Druja avoid you. Boy, you a bad dude. If the Drujas don't want to, look, the Drujas out here looking for them niggas. You dig what I'm talking about? But you so bad, you a corrupt Druja. They'll come under your spirit influence. You a terrible person, bro. Yo, of whom the dark ones avoided. Gantua, who was caught, his eyes gouged, chained to a stone, and lashed and abused by the Nephilim until he was dead. Gantua's army was 500 giants. Nibos, the black giant from the hot lands of elsewhere, Nibos, who escaped capture from Nimrod's army. Nibos, who preferred a sword to an axe. Nibos, who collected 3,000 or removed Nephilim heads from the field and burned them in the high places to gods we did not know, according to the rituals of the nation from which he come. Nibos, whose dark ones stood beside him as trees walking. Nibos, who shaped the shores of the great land with stones and sand. Nibos, whose foreign gods told of the great waters to come. Nibos' army was 1,000 giants. Saul, the black, long-haired giant from the hot lands of elsewhere. Saul, brother of Nibos. Saul, possessed by a powerful dark one who could change his form into an abomination for the days upon end. Saul, whose madness was corrupted on the field of battle. Saul, whose warfare made no discernible sense. Saul, whose heavy dark hair was magnificent to all who saw it. Saul, who held fast to gods we did not know and would not depart from them. Saul, who dragged the dead bodies to stolas for food. Saul, who had the eyes of certain death. Saul, who died at the hands of the weapons of the circumcised. Saul's army was 1,000 giants. So we find two brothers, Nibos and Saul. You dig what I'm talking about? From the hot lands of elsewhere. I wonder what place actually let's ask this question real quick, right? What place has the highest average temperature on Earth? Uh-oh. They talk about the hot lands elsewhere. Uh-oh. It get deep. It get deep. You dig what I'm talking about? It get deep. Hold on. Because remember, we done had a bunch. Guess where these black giants are coming from? Because remember, we got Nibos and we got Sao. Also, Sao, S-A-O, can be pronounced she. And we got, hold on, we got the nigga with the dreads coming from the land of the hot lands of elsewhere. You would think that the hot lands of elsewhere, because they dark, is Africa. but the highest average temperature on Earth is in Death Valley. Oh, in America. What does it say? Hold on. Let me share my screen with you. This is crazy. Huh? This is crazy. Can y'all see that? Let me try to blow it up a little bit. I can't. It don't matter. I'm going to read it to you anyway. It say, Death Valley holds the record for the highest air temperature on the planet. On the 10th of July, 1913, temperatures at the aptly named Furnace Creek area, California desert, reached a blistering 134 degrees Fahrenheit. Average summer temperature, meanwhile, often rise above 113. You know what I mean? I got you. Give me a sec. So they talking about, hold on. Let's get back to some of these earlier, like Noth, right? Like you Thoth. You dig what I'm talking about? Like Kotos. You dig what I'm saying? From the hot lands of elsewhere. You see how this opens? These is giants from America. Huh? These is giants from America. Wow. What what's the possibilities of that, yo? What y'all think, man? Huh? I don't see that many Africans with dreads. Not that there ain't. We know that there are. They got the Negroidal mix from the Israelites, the Jews or the Hebrews, whatever you want to call it. They got that mix. That was the whole reason Abram was even sent to Ham. That's the reason he called Ham. He raised them niggas up. All of them. And you only got that admixture from admixing. But look, didn't they say where Ohio? And look, it makes sense now, right? Remember Ohio, he fought with his hands. You dig what I'm talking about? Who the most dominant fighters on the planet? And remember, Ohio is from the hot lands of elsewhere. Guatemala, America, huh? Ancient Tori, huh? The misstood and mistaken Turtle Island, huh? Makes sense. They got a whole if y'all are boxing fans, right? If y'all boxing fans, they got dudes like Canelo Alvarez, and certain fighters who literally avoid fighting black fighters. They don't do it because they don't want to lose. They get beat up. You know what I mean? Look at the pound for pound list. So it start to make sense. You did what I'm talking about. When you just look at it and then you throw little ideas up off the wall. You dig what I'm talking about? But if the hot lands of elsewhere is America, and this dude got dreads, who really the oldest people in America? That brings up another question, right? So Nibos and Sal come from the hot lands elsewhere with Kotos and Ohio. Ohio. Oh, that might be. Dig this. Isdubar, the next guy, of golden skin and black eyes. Isdubar, who sacrificed all of his offspring to Baal of the sun before the unspoken mistake. Idzubar, who practiced all of the soothsaying, witchcraft, and openness to dark ones that he could muster. Isdubar, who created potions with Enceladus that caused the giants to see the future / tomorrow. Isdubar, of whom there had been no giant like him before, and who worshiped Baal of the sun with all of his soul and with all of his might, according to the laws of the kingdom. Isdubar, who foretold of the great waters to come. Isdubar, who had the eyes of certain death. Isdubar army was 500 giants. Well, they said I thought he said before the mistake, he had already sacrificed his kids. These niggas. So it sounds like Isdubar and this next guy is some kin to each other, right? Because look, Davana, like Ravana. Davana, of golden skin and black eyes, just like Isdubar. Davana, whose dark ones protected him from arrows and spears. Dang, they also say they do the good spirits do that for certain men here. Go read the story of George Washington. Right? Davana's, whose madness caused him to run headlong into battle. Davana, who attacked the circumcised Nephilim with fingers and teeth. He was a savage. Davana, who consulted a medium of Mot for guidance. Davana, whose staff was infused by the power of Baal of the sun, so that all who touched it were healed from various wounds. Davana, who walked with Baal of the sun as no other giant before or after. Davana, army of 500 giants. Is that possible that he could have walked with Baal? Yes, we find that it's possible through the story of Thothma, with the understanding of swallowing your tongue and actually spirit traveling with spirit guides, going to the lower heavens, being shown these things. This is known. So, they said he walked with Baal of the sun as no other before or after. Kressel, of the warmer lands, of elsewhere, the warmer lands. Interesting. And look at Kressel. Kressel, of golden skin and hair. Kressel, whose army the dark ones made invisible. Kressel, servant of Baal of the moon. Kressel, whose dark ones confused the circumcised Nephilim, so that they said, I hear them, but I see no more. I see no one. Kressel, whose army relentlessly killed and tormented the most Nephilim in the 100,000 Giant War. Kressel, who practiced the darkest sorcery of Baal of the Moon within the Great Land. The Great Land. So, the hot lands, the warmer lands, sound like Africa. And Isdubar, Davana, and Kressel sound like they from the same place, but maybe different regions. Right? Kressel, who practiced the darkest sorcery of Baal of the Moon within the Great Lands. Kressel, who had prophesied the great waters. Kressel's army was 2,000 giants. Dig this one. Even when I read this one the first time, this one stuck out, right? This is interesting right here. Listen to this giant. Tiamat of the lands along the waters. Could it be Antarctica? It's surrounded by the most waters. I don't know. Listen. Tiamat of the lands along the waters. Tiamat, whose body was covered with scars from struggles with the water creatures. Tiamat, whose presence brought fear into the hearts of giants, who had seen him in battle before. Tiamat, who screamed at his army that Baal of the Moon was great and greatly to be feared above all other gods. Tiamat, whose army argued about the stature of Baal of the Moon, and he called down ice from the sky. He didn't call down fire. He called down ice from the sky upon 100 of his own giants. Tiamat's army was 500. I guess it was 400. Because them niggas got to arguing. This nigga, he didn't call for fire like he called for ice. Dope. So-called the prophet of Mot, Zokal, who never left Mot's temple until the time of the 100,000 Giant War. Zokal, of whom Mot spoke wisdom through. Zokal, who prophesied the victory of the 100,000 Giant War and the coming great waters. Zokal, possessed by dark ones that stood on his shoulders. Zokul, who was aroused on the field of battle. He so hated the Nephilim and lusted for their death. You ever try to fight with a spiffy? It's impossible. You must really hate these people. Zokul, who drank the blood of the Nephilim he killed. Upon the field of battle, Zokul was possessed by a demon that none had encountered before. Zokul, who had the eyes of certain death, in a possessed state, attacked his own army, and he was murdered by them. Zokul's army was 2,000 giants. Okay. Atlan. This is another interesting one. Atlan. So could it be Atlantis? Or the city, the Tis, like Tio, Tis? Or could it be Alata? The Ta, meaning like land, or the land of Atlan. Maybe that's why that side of the section is called the Atlantis. And there's a major city over that way called Atlanta. Who knows? One of the two tallest giants from the furthest edge of the land. Atlan, who hounded never mind. Atlan, who hounded his circumcised enemies day and night with fury. Atlan, who never feared and put his trust in Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Atlan, who saw the Nephilim turn back in fear of his approach. Atlan, who swung his driver and chaser, exposing the yellowing entrails, blood and bones of the circumcised Nephilim. Atlan, who twisted the circumcised Nephilim, spells and curses against them with great cunning. Atlan, whose army marked the footsteps and lay in wait for the circumcised Nephilim, who would collect the foreskins of the dead Raphaim on the fields of battle. Atlan's army was 3,000 giants. Titian, or Thatian, Thetan or Thetan. I like to say Thetan. One of the two tallest giants from the furthest edge of the land. So I bet you Atlan and Tatian or Thetan, from the not only from the same area, they may be of the same genetic stock. Man, listen, man, this is getting different, right? Thetan, who hated the circumcised Nephilim with an unnatural burning hatred. Thetan, whose army tore through the Nephilim as lions tear through the sick. Thetan, whose giants set fires with oil on the field of battle and attacked outside it. Thetan, who worshipped Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Thetan, who broke the circumcised Nephilim teeth in their mouths with rocks and other objects. Thetan, whose dark ones drove him to pursue the Nephilim for days without rest. Thatian's army was 3,000 giants. So Thetan and Atlan then came with 6,000 giants of their own, and they the two biggest, right? Zakab, a hurler of stones. It was said that Zakab could throw rocks and spears, and his mighty arms that were as large as felled tree stumps never tired. There's a tree stump. You're pretty big. Zakab, who lived near the trees where the Raphaim tied the dead. Zakab, who had a dark one so powerful that he could not be bound with chains, but that they broke as a thread of tow when it touches the fire. Zakab, who sacrificed to Baal of the moon at dusk every evening. Zakab's hate for the circumcised Nephilim was the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Zakab, who had the eyes of certain death. Zakab led an army of 1,000 giants who hurled stones and spears in battle. Man, it's getting heavy. Shout out Shaber. Belzel, the Israelite in the house. One, Roger Washington. Kila in the house. set apart in the house. Y'all say big bones been found in the Grand Canyon all over the West Coast. Correct. They be hiding them, bro. They hide them though. You know what I mean? You got to check it out. And then there was a big old museum in Brazil that had like a 30-foot man in it. Next thing you know, that thing burning. To the bones, we don't know. But there was a skeleton of a 30-foot man in there. You dig what I'm talking about? That was being displayed out there. And it didn't last long. And as soon as people caught on, that mug got toasted. Yeah. You dig what I'm talking about? Let's get back to it though. Ballast. Excuse me. Hold on. Oh, no. We still at Zakab. Wait a minute. Change. Zakab, who sacrificed the ball of the moon at dusk every evening. Zakab's hate for the circumcised Nephilim was the substance. Did you notice that? He had faith in hate and evil. You dig what I'm talking about? He had faith in it. That it was gonna come. Like I'm gonna get me somebody. You dig what I'm talking about? Excuse me, my eye water. Zakab's hate for the circumcised Nephilim was the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Ooh, biblical. Zakab, who had the eyes of certain death. Zakab led an army of 1,000 giants who hurled stones and spears in battle. Balis, the finisher. Dang. So I'm sure Balis a G. Let's see what happened to Balis. You dig what I'm talking about? Let's see what happened to Balis real quick. Now, while we reading all these, let me see if I can you dig what I'm talking about? Let me show some something in the background. You dig what I'm talking about? That you know, so have your mind thinking a little bit, have you off in the ethers a little bit. You dig what I'm talking about? Have you off in the ethers a little bit. You dig what I'm talking about? Okay. Balis, the finisher, who slew all the dying and wounded Nephilim on the field of battle. Balis, who stacked the bodies of the dead Nephilim in large burning monuments to Baal of the earth. Balis, who it was said the dark ones favored. Balis, the soothsayer, who secretly worshiped Mot. Balis, who would force wounded Nephilim faces to swim together before they broke like pottery in his grasp. So he was smashing their heads together. Balis, who lowered himself to the ground and attacked the circumcised as a beast of the field would. What? Balis, the finisher's army, was 2,000 giants who slew the wounded Nephilim on the field of battle. This is another one y'all might have heard of. Skyron, who had lost his arm in battle alongside Geryon. Skyron, servant of Baal of the moon. Skyron, who connected to a floating beast in battle. Skyron, who, when connected, looked like an elephant. and grew his arm back. Could this be like Skyron, the story of Skyron, also be connected with the story of Ganesha out of India? Huh? Because when he was connected, when he was tapped in, right, he looked like an elephant and grew his arm back. Skyron, who harvested and drank the blood of the Nephilim in clay pots with Qurans. Skyron, who demanded that those follow him shave their heads in ritualistic patterns, as those from the hot lands of elsewhere do. Uh-oh. So the niggas in America, how many you know of them that get designs cut in their head? How many girls you know to get different colors, and you got dreads, and you know what I mean, they twist it up, and you dig what I'm talking about, braid it down in certain ways, and you dig what I'm talking about. You got, remember we used to get the Michael Jordan symbols cut in the back of our heads, and you dig what I'm talking about, peace signs and the Mercedes sign, and remember we used to do that here in America? You dig what I'm talking about? They saying that Skyron, you dig what I'm talking about, had his people cutting their hair and putting their hair in different ritualistic styles. You know what I mean? And he say they do that, right? He say Skyron, who demanded that those follow him shave their heads in ritualistic patterns, as those from the hot lands of elsewhere do. You know what I mean? You just keep finding out little clues and dots, and you just put that mug together. You dig what I'm talking about? Skyron, who trained the great beasts to stand upon the circumcised and hold them still until his army cut their throats and stomped their skulls. Before the water came, here come the water. The field of the battle was soaked with blood, and it was Skyron and his giants doing. Skyron's army was 500 giants. Jug. You got Jug up here. You know what I'm talking about? Jug about to do his thing. You dig what I'm talking about? The ugliest giant, Jug. To walk before ball of the earth. Dang, the ugliest giant ever to walk before ball of the earth. Jug, whose ugliness could stun a bull elephant, beast of the field. Wow. Jug, who while in a trance spoke the words of Baal of the stars and celestial bodies. Jug, who prophesied of the great waters to come. Jug, who with his horrible visage led the first of the Raphaim to battle. Jug, who wrung Nephilim necks with hands that were dangerous weapons. Jug, whose terrible physical twisting was never undone. When Baal of the earth looked upon Jug, he looked with respect. Dang, you made your God respect you? What's really going on here, man? What's really going on? You dig what I'm talking about? They look up on dog. Even his God say, well, damn, you's ugly nigga, but you's a G. You know what I mean? You is gangster. I will give you that. You know what I mean? You gangster in the mud. But dog, you know what I'm saying? To where your God respected you like that. Thought he said he wasn't no respecter of men. Guess not this one, right? Jug, who had the eyes of certain death. Jug's army was 500 giants. Hastor, Og's battle strategist. This is general. This Og general, right? Hastor, who rode a large beast of old to the field of battle. Hastor, whose heavy black hair was a crown to him. You dig what I'm talking about? Hastor, who was a priest of Baal of the moon. Hastor, who was honorable and whose counsel was like deep waters. Hastor, who forced his sandaled foot onto the necks of the many of the failed circumcised. Hastor's army was successful because the circumcised Nephilim nation is a nation without counsel, and there is no understanding among them. Could this be your Babel time? Hastor, who had prophesied the loss of the unspoken mistake and the great waters. Hastor's army was 500 giants. Now, this is interesting right here. This is one this one is interesting to me. Check these guys out. The dragon siblings, right? Where these dudes from? Right? Check how they look, though. The dragon siblings. So that means they brother and sister, or they brothers and they sisters, but you dig what I'm talking about? But they siblings, probably twins, with white hair and blue eyes, entered the 100,000 giant war from the east. Could this be your ancient Ahuan stock? What they call them, Denisovan stock, pre-Denisovan, 22,000, 24,000 years ago, stock of the people of Chinese. Do that even make sense? Mind you, these giants, right? Let's see if we can bring a little clarity. Let's look in the Waspy real quick. Hold on, let me find something for you real quick. Waspy reveal, right, that in ancient times, the land of Yafet, right, produced the largest people ever. So ain't it crazy how they now produce some of the smallest people on average? You dig what I'm talking about? The dragon siblings from the east. But that, oh man, the dragon siblings that told of a wealthy city in the sky. The dragon siblings, right? That dragon is a very powerful sign in Asia. Who worship gods we did not know. The dragon siblings who were protected by the bright ones. The dragon siblings whose joining army added 20,000 Raphaim to the battle. The kingdom of Og hired the dragon siblings with gold stripped from Baal of the earth's temple. A curse forevermore is upon all of us for our purchase. Their tales and their exploits against the circumcised, are they not recorded in the wars of the giants in the mountains? Wait till I get that book. Wait till I get that one. You dig what I'm talking about? I can't wait. I can't wait till I get that book. You dig what I'm talking about? Let's get through this real quick though, because this is actually some real interesting stuff. You know what I mean? And it's going even deeper than I even thought. You dig what I'm talking about? I never thought I would be building on Nimrod 3 consecutive days, 3, 4, 4. You know what I mean? This is Nimrod 3, right? Sheesh. All right. He said, "Are they not recorded in the wars of the giants in the mountains?" That should sound familiar. Tarhunt, the hungry, who ate many sour dead on the field of battle, and who was spared from sickness by a potion from Enceladus. Tarhunt, who killed as many uncircumcised Nephilim as Balas, the finisher. I think they meant to say circumcised Nephilim as Balas, the finisher. Tarhunt, well, actually, both of them killed both of them, because remember, Balas, he go into his mode and he don't care who he killed. He called the beast up. They kill everybody. Tarhunt, the scarred and hungry, who attacked T first and killed with the driver and chaser. Tarhunt, worshipper, the ball of the moon. Tarhunt, who waited upon the dark ones and was of good courage and was strengthened by the ball of the moon. Tarhunt, who was surrounded by the voices of the dark ones that advised him. Tarhunt, who prophesied the great waters. Tarhunt, who had the eyes of certain death. Tarhunt's army was 1,000 giants. Meyer, who connected to a floating beast in battle. Meyer, who when connected looked like a rhinoceros. He looked like a rhinoceros. Meyer, who worshiped Baal of the earth. Meyer, who lifted a hillside and killed 300 circumcised Nephilim with. There's a story where Og lifts up a mountain and it falls on his head and he's trapped, and supposedly Moses goes and kills him. Meyer, who was a lawless Raphaim and whose dark ones hung about him like reeds by still water. Dang. A whip for the beast, a bridle for the Nephilim, and a rod for Nimrod's back. Meyer, whose commitment to Baal of the earth was complete. Meyer, whose eyes had been blackened and scorched in his quest for certain death. Meyer's army was 500 giants. Hahaya, y'all, this should sound familiar too. Hahaya, who scattered the pieces of the circumcised Nephilim on the field of battle. Hahaya, who welcomed the dark ones of Mot within him. Hahaya, of brutal stature, who gave his dying enemies vinegar to drink. Didn't they do that to Yeshua or Jesus? They didn't do it to Yeshua. Hahaya, who carried the dead Raphaim from the field of battle to tie to the trees where the dark ones gathered. Hahaya, whose dark ones tormented the circumcised Nephilim so that they threw themselves down and dashed their stomachs and skulls open on the sharp rocks of the field of battle. Hahaya, whose contention with the circumcised Nephilim was as the bars of a castle. Wow. Meaning firm. Hahaya's army was 1,000 giants. Arg, the red-haired, who lost an eye once in battle. Arg, who took an eye of every circumcised Nephilim he killed. Og, who hated Nimrod with all his soul and was responsible for Nimrod's original circumcision. Remember, Og, who was consumed by ball of the stars and celestial bodies, that the dark ones gathered about him as a storm in the sand. So imagine that flowing around him. You dig what I'm talking about? Og, of whose dark ones spoke through him and guided the Raphaim in battle. Og, who had the eye of certain death. Og's army was 1,000 giants. Cacus, the dark Raphaim from the hot lands of elsewhere. Cacus, worshiper of gods we did not know. Cacus, whose hair was as ropes. The boy had dreads. And whose back was broad. Ooh. Cacus, whose dark ones broke the bones of the circumcised Nephilim when told. Cacus, who wore high-ranking circumcised Nephilim army heads about his waist, like the witch doctors, the head shrinkers in America, huh? Coming with that voodoo, huh? Coming with that voodoo. Kicking up more dust than a Zulu. What? Cacus, who was scarred by Ball of the Moon as he pronounced a broken incantation to raise the moon child from the dead. Cacus's army was 1,000 giants. Whew, check this one guy out. Crosel, with crooked teeth. Crosel, who along with Zakab soaked 1,000 cedar trees in oil, set them on fire, and threw them into the kingdom of the circumcised Nephilim. And these dudes is massive. Crosel, who shaved his head but let his beard grow. Crosel, who called upon Ball of the earth to poison the rivers and the lands of the circumcised Nephilim. Crosel, who was born half consumed by darkness, so that he never did one good thing. Crosel, whose dark ones engulfed him in the fire licks about a sacrifice. Crosel, who studied the ways of darkness until it was all he was. Crosel's army was 500 giants. Korb, the drunk. Korb, keeper of the vineyards, who connected to a floating beast in battle. Korb, who when connected, was as a bear. Korb, the drunken carver of idols and accursed objects of Mot. Korb, whose carvings were imbued with the blessings of Mot and his dark ones. Korb, whose mighty strength dug the uncircumcised valleys of Og's kingdom. Or Korb, who had given his flesh to the dark ones of Mot at an early age, whose eyes were darkened. Korb, who said the following, and I quote, "Let the giants serve Mot, and the nations bow down to him. Let Mot be the ruler of thy brethren. Let your brothers and fathers bow to him. Cursed be anyone who curses Mot. There will be no blessings for you." Korb's army was 500 giants. Let's check out this one. This is an interesting dude too. He was mentioned in the beginning with King Og, along with Sihon and Geryon, right? Lester. You dig what I'm saying? Just check out Latat. Latat, the Rephaim keeper of weapons. Latat had them straps. Latat, who taught the Rephaim how to kill with the driver and the chaser. Latat, who secretly worshipped Ma. Latat, as he bled, a circumcised Nephilim screamed. This is the blood of the circumcised covenant, which is... Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back and read that again. Latat, who, as he bled, a circumcised Nephilim screamed. So as he running through a dude, he cutting him open and bleeding him. This is what he's saying. This is the blood of the circumcised covenant, which is shed for the uncircumcised giants. Do this in remembrance of Mot. Oh my God. Y'all don't believe it's evil out here? That's in your Bible. Lathat, with red hair, who ran mad in the forest under the power of many dark ones. Lathat, who mixed animals and creatures into new beasts with the power of Baal of the earth. Lathat, who placed rods in the sight of the animals in the gutters so that they would mate strangely by the rods. Lathat, who, wait a minute, where have I heard that before? Who placed rods in the sight of the animals, he says, in the gutters so that they would mate. Lamech. Where's my book of Lamech? I think it might be in the car. My book of Lamech. Lamech of Cain breeds the Leviathan the same way. It's almost like what you would call today a modern day rape stand. When you breed a dog, it like holds their heads in there so the dog don't turn around and bite the other dog. And you breed the dog and then you let them turn. Basically, this is what they explain it. This is basically a rape stand. But imagine for massive beasts of old like the Leviathan. Because Lamech and Uval was breeding the Leviathan. We gotta get, man, I gotta go get them. Okay, I gotta go. We're gonna have to get that. Lathat, who placed rods in the sight of animals in the gutter so that they would mate strangely by the rods. Lathat, who would not breed the animals that were feeble, for the feeble were for eating, but the strong were for warfare. Lathat, didn't I tell you? Lathat, whose unnatural beasts were both a blessing and a curse from Baal of the earth. Lathat's army was 500 giants. Yebsu, the bastard, son of Baal of the earth, with no discernible parentage. Yebsu, who ate the yellowing entrails of all he killed. Yebsu, of old, who conversed regularly with the bright ones. Yebsu, whose dark ones made him as a beryl with his face, the appearance of lightning, a beryl stone. Let's go look at a beryl stone real quick. You dig what I'm talking about? Let's go check this out real quick. I just want to put what is a beryl, right? Just want to show this. Now we're talking about Yebsu, right? Hold on, let me share this with y'all. Let me share. I ain't gonna be greedy.
I'm going to start out with aquamarine, the blue form of beryl. Aqua and all the beryls are good touchstones. They have good hardness, so very wearable stone. And for us as cutters, it's an easy stone to cut and polish. It's just a pleasure to work with. The beryls generally form in these long hexagonal crystals, as you'll see here, and these bigger crystals. These are from Madagascar. The aquamarines, these are from Madagascar, these from Nigeria.
Oh, okay. Hold on, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay.
Hi, I'm Steve Moriarty from Moriarty's Gem Art. We're a jeweler on the square in Crown Point, and we're
All right. Barrel, right? We're breaking down that barrel. Let's get a good picture of some barrel real quick. Let's get a good picture of barrel.
all aqua long, so you do get very large.
Damn, I did it again. I pressed the wrong.
Hi, I'm Steve Moriarty from Moriarty's Gem Art.
Okay, I did that. That's my bad, y'all. But let me go again, right? Let me show y'all this.
And that's what
Because I want to show y'all
crystals from Madagascar were quite large, maybe 6 inches.
what this barrel looked like. Let me show y'all what this barrel looked like. So you can get an idea in your mind when they say barrel, what they talking about. Can y'all see that? That's from Madagascar. That's barrel. You dig what I'm talking about? Like aquamarine. This is actually my stone, my birthstone month, right? But let me see. Yepsu, whose dark ones made him as beryl, with his face an appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass. So a nice brown shade, light brown, yellow, your red bone. And the voice of his words as the voice of a multitude of spirits, Yepsu, who knew the incantation to raise the dead. Yes, Yepsu's army was 3,000 giants. Look at Beryl. What did it say? Yepsu, whose dark ones made him as a beryl, with his face the appearance of lightning. So light is cutting in through. See how the light cut through the barrel? Let me play it a little bit. Dig what I'm talking about, so you can see how the light reflect up off this mug.
So you do get very large crystals of aquamarines because of the shape of the.
See how the light hitting off of it? That's how they say his face and his eyes and all that was showing.
They can often be long pencil shapes.
That's dope.
As you see in some of the pendants.
You know what I mean? That's dope. All right, let me stop sharing. Okay. Sandar, the dark Raphaim, from the hot lands of elsewhere. Listen, it's a bunch of these niggas in America. And look how they all look. Just like Jehovah said they was. Copper color with long, black, coarse hair. Just look. Hold on. That ain't a Native American. He was from the hot lands elsewhere too. So he from the West Coast. You dig what I'm talking about? He from Mexico. Uh-oh. He from Nevada. He from Cali. From Texas. Sandar, the dark Raphaim, from the hot lands of elsewhere. All these, the hot lands elsewhere, all of them dark. Sandar, who shaved his head bald before ball of the earth. Sandar, who threw rocks and missiles over the field of battle with Zakab and Crochel. Sandar, who set 7 dark ones by themselves within him that spoke through him in turn. Sandar, who defended his army from its enemies, saying, I will defend this army to save it, for ball of the earth's sake, and for the uncircumcised in the kingdom of Og's sake. Sandar, who delivered his army from the circumcised with unspoken fury. Sandar's army was 500 giants. Zaphan, high priest of Baal of the sons of Zaphan, whose dark ones appeared as 3 dark giants flanking him. Dang. Zaphan, who was captured by the circumcised Nephilim, dragged into Nimrod's kingdom, and thrown into a furnace. Zaphan, who cried out before the flames, shall I be cursed to die in flames as a high priest of Baal of the sun? Perhaps Baal of the sun has not redeemed us from the curse invoked, because we hang our dead on trees where the dark ones gather after all. Nimrod then ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times. 7 times more than it was usually heated. 15 of Nimrod's guards died from the heat as they pushed Zaphan into the furnace. That sounds familiar. And Nimrod said, Did I not put 1 Raphaim in the furnace? And Nimrod's guards that remained replied, He was but 1 uncircumcised Raphaim. And Nimrod replied, Look, I see 4 giants walking about loose in the fire. And one of them looks like Ball of the moon. Wait a minute. 4 people walking in the fire. And Nimrod came near the mouth of the fiery furnace and spoke and said, Zaphan, you servant of Ball of the moon, come on out here. This is the story of Abram too. This is also the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro. You dig what I'm talking about? What they in the furnace and the angel was by them. They looked in and thought it was 3 niggas. I see 4 niggas in there. This also happened to Abraham, in the stories of Joshua. Wow. He said, come on up out of there. And Zaphan exited the furnace. Not a hair on his head was singed, nor was his armor nor weapons hot, nor had the smell of fire come upon him. Zaphan then said, I am a servant of Baal of the sun, but rightly you speak, because Baal of the moon, Baal of the earth, and Baal of the stars and celestial bodies, and Baal of the sun were in your furnace. Dang. Zaphan was then beheaded by Nimrod. Zaphan's army was 500 giants. Nimrod, he didn't care who was in there. He was in there. It was Ball of the sun in there with you. It's like, yeah, Ball of the earth too, Nick. You dig what I'm talking about? Dead homies. You dig what I'm talking about? Dead homies. Ball was up in there with me, cut. Or chop that nigga head off, man. This is cold. Right? Remember, this happened before the biblical story was written. This is thousands of years before. This is before Egypt. Okay. Orneus, the willfully dark. Orneus, whose countenance was like lightning, and whose raiment was white as snow. Orneus, who prayed unto the eternal, immortal, invisible, and only ball of the moon. Orneus, who captured the circumcised Nephilim, not to kill them, but that they should be tormented as a hand when a scorpion strikes it. Orneus, whose dark ones protected his body and healed his wounds. Orneus, whose dark ones hated him and whispered against him to devise his harm. Orneus, whose anger lasted for a lifetime, who had no favor for life, who wept until the morning, and whose joy never came. Wow, listen, don't that sound familiar? Orneus, who remained close to Og in battle. Orneus, who had the blackened eyes of certain death. Whew. No, that's who came, right? But I want to read this. I want to read this real quick. You can also see a more in-depth version of the fiery furnace with Abraham and Legends of the Jews, Awaken to Truth Ministries. That was, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I haven't seen that, but I'm gonna go check it out. You dig what I'm talking about? If you know, if y'all want to go check that out, man. Can you go back? Roger Washington says, but thank you for coming through to Awaken the Truth Ministries. You dig what I'm talking about? In the Legends of the Jews, right? Fiery furnace with Abraham. Yeah. You dig what I'm talking about? But it's crazy how the same thing happened to another person, same king, both Nimrod, right? And the same thing happened to Zaphon, and the same thing happened to Abram. That's deep. Roger Washington says, you can use J to go back 10 seconds each time you press it. K will pause the video, and L move forward 10 seconds. Okay. Oh, you talking about in the video. Okay. That sounds like Hebrew boys in the furnace. Yep. And his brother. You can also see it more in we already read that one. Shalom. Awaken the Truth Ministries. She be reading the Owaspies in the morning too. You know what I mean? Roger Washington, yeah, in the house with my dog. What do you say? Set apart. Say that sounds too familiar. Don't it? Do this in remembrance of me, spiritual light. I don't make it up, man. I just bring it out. You dig what I'm talking about? I set the table. I lay it out for you. I set the table for you. But you got to eat. You dig what I'm talking about? Now, I think I'm going to just do this one. We're going to have to come back with a part 4, man. We've been here 3 hours rocking. You dig what I'm talking about? We want to get these things more succinct. Anybody in the chat know any animators? Any visual art guys, girls, whoever? You dig what I'm talking about? Tell them to hit me up. Hit me up in the chat. Hit me up CosmonCalTV at gmail.com. CosmonCalTV, gmail.com. You know, got some works I want to do, and I need some animators. You dig what I'm talking about? Some visual effect type guys, some programmers. And you dig what I'm talking about? Holla at your boy. Yeah, this is mind-blowing, Elijah. Yes. So I'm gonna read this last chapter, right? And because I kind of want to get to, I want to get to this other part that's really because I want to twist your cap. I do. You dig what I'm talking about? Let's get to it. I ain't even gonna hold you up. King Og puts on the whole armor of God. Oh, what? Cosmon, you tripping? You tripping, Cook? What you talking about, Cook? Huh? King Og putting on the armor of God. What did you talk about? Ain't that Ephesians? What you talking about, Cook? Hold on. Let me share this. Uh-oh. Hold on. Let me blow it up for me right real quick. Let me see if I can get this thing blowed up a little bit. Well, this is Ephesians. Hold on. We find King Og puts on the whole armor of God. Baal. This is Ephesians 11 through 18. Dig this. Put on the whole armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of the world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand the evil, withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about you with truth. Listen. And having on a breastplate of righteousness. Listen, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Okay. Above all, taking the shield. How can you have peace while you're preparing for war? That's a contradiction. How can you have a gospel of peace when your prophets and your God is inspiring you to put on armor to go to war? How can there be peace? That's a contradiction. Hold on. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of wickedness. Now, people will say, this is allegory. This is allegory. You know, because it's principalities. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Yeah. But against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Huh? But the rulers come with men, and they war. And this is why the allegory of war being compared to a gospel of peace, right? And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. Right? Let me get back. Stop sharing. Watch this. Listen. Talking about girding your loins and all that. Putting on your shield. Listen, King Og puts on the whole armor of God. Baal. Then before the army of 100,000 giants, Anak helped King Og put on the whole armor of God, who that he would, so that he would able to stand against the wiles of the incoming circumcised. To stand and stand still. Right. So King Og took to himself the whole armor of Baal of the earth, so that he would withstand on the day of war. And having done all to stand, King Og stood with his feet apart, having girded his loins with the truth of the uncircumcised. Listen, he wore the breastplate of Baal of the moon. King Og had also shod his feet with preparation for total warfare. See the lying scribes in your Bible? See how they twisting this stuff up? I think this truth. I think this got more truth in it. Trying to act like it's allegory for war. No, it's real war. Above all, King Og took the shield of Baal of the stars and constellations to quench all the fiery darts of the circumcised Nephilim. Come on. And King Og fixed Mot's helmet of the afterlife upon his head. And even the Cyclops go on to create a helmet for Hades. That is the helmet of invisibility. Comes from hell. You dig what I'm talking about? And King Og fixed Mot's helmet of the afterlife upon his head, and the sword of Baal of the sun, which illuminates the life that surrounds all uncircumcised Raphaim. After his armor had been fitted upon him, King Og then cursed in his heart and continued to curse always with all purpose and the hatred all hatred he could muster against the circumcised Nephilim. For King Og's uncircumcised Raphaim wrestled not against complete giants, but against the circumcised, against their circumcised smaller selves, and against the dark ones of Nimrod land, and against the spiritual abomination leaking from individuals with compromised loins. Hold on, wait a minute. Didn't it say, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places? For King Og's uncircumcised Rephaim wrestled not against complete giants, but against the circumcised smaller selves, and against the dark ones of Nimrod's land, against spiritual abomination leaking from individuals with compromised loins. And King Og turned and commanded that his 100,000 giants step forward and enter onto the field of battle, which was a desert. And the desert was called Damnation. Interesting. Let me look up and see if I can find something. Where is the desert of Damnation? Let's see if we can see what it come up with. Just look it up, right? It's a rock band. Let me see something. Uh-oh. desert of damnation in Hebrew is the valley of Hinnom. Hebrews 3:19. The context of Israel walking in the desert, but let's just see what it say. The valley of Hinnom, or Ben Hinnom, the valley of son of Hinnom, is a historic valley surrounding ancient Jerusalem from the west and southwest. Can y'all see that? Hold on, I haven't shared that. My bad. Let me show y'all what I'm looking at real quick. All right. Right. The valley is also known by the name of Gehinnom, an alternative biblical Hebrew form that survived into Aramaic and has received various fundamental theological connotations, and by the Greek and Syriac transliteration, Gehenna. The valley of Hinnom is first mentioned in Hebrews Bible as part of the border between the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, Joshua 15:8. During the late First Temple period, it was the site of Tophet, where some of the kings of Judah had sacrificed their children by fire. Listen. Y'all seeing the connection? Thereafter, it was cursed by the biblical prophet Jeremiah. In later Jewish rabbinic literature, Gehenna became associated with divine punishment in Jewish apocalypticism as the destination of the wicked. It is different from the more neutral term Sheol, and abode of the dead. The King James Version of the Bible translate both with Anglo-Saxon word hell. In the adjacent Mount Zion from the west and south, it emerges. Look at this. Gehenna. It's a real place. Wow. Gehenna. That's crazy interesting. Right? That's crazy interesting. King Og's uncircumcised armies looked across the field of battle, and there they saw Nimrod's great armies gathering at the entrance to Nimrod's kingdom. The circumcised Nephilim and their circumcised smaller selves then stood on the field of battle, and their number was as the sand that is upon the seashore in multitude. The circumcised Nephilim with their dark ones clouding in their midst, as if the army were smoldering in a black fire. And the uncircumcised Nephilim looked powerful and favorable to King Og and his army. And the fear of a lost battle entered into King Og, and he fell forward and prophesied from Baal of the earth, saying before his army, giants that fear Baal of the earth, such giants we are. Giants that remember the unspoken mistake in the moon child, such giants we are. Giants of war, hating circumcision, and all of the circumcised Nephilim, such giants we are. Baal of the earth is upon us, and we shall be rulers of thousands, and rulers of 5,000s, and rulers of 10,000s, and rulers of millions. Ooh. Man, I think maybe we should hold off and actually get to the war tomorrow. We'll finish it all off. Nimrod, that'll be part 4. Jehovah Chronicles number 14. Cosmonian, man. Oh, man. Y'all go get it, man. Selah Shalom in the house. Y'all still in here. What y'all got going on? What y'all got going on? Elijah, this is mind-blowing, correct? Selah Shalom in this thing. You dig what I'm talking about? I'll be posting comment sections, so y'all will be able to click the link if it doesn't work here. Okay. You tripping, cook? Yo, what man is this making so much sense? We are to be a peaceful people of the spirit of the Creator. Come on, man. Come on. I might have missed it, but what book is, bro? I'm reading from the Lost Book of King Og. Lost Book of King Og. You dig what I'm talking about? There's another one y'all could get. You can get the Lost Book of King Og. It's from Dimon. Right? It's the Lost Book of King Og, right? But then you got, because see, they don't have a book of the giants. This is the books of Og, Enoch, and the giants. Right? So all like three texts put up in there. You know what I mean? Because this thing get deep. It get wait till you see. Hold on. Wait till you see the giants holding up King Og's arms as he getting tired, his arms falling, and he gotta raise his arms back up. And while he got his arms raised, his Raphaim is winning. When he let his arms down, the Nephilim is winning. Wait till you see he holding up the, what was it, the serpent staff? Wait till you see. Oh my God, man, this is so crazy. This is so crazy, man. And then it's another book called The Lost Book of Lamech of Cain. If y'all can get your hands on this stuff, get it while the getting is good. Get it while the getting is good, because when we start letting it out, you dig what I'm talking about? People start seeing it. You dig what I'm talking about? They're going to get all of it. And it's going to be just like the Elois copy of the Owaspi. You can't find it. You dig what I'm talking about? So, man, that being said, man, Jehovah Chronicles. But we on 13? We on 13 already? We've been getting it in, Cosmon. Nimrod, right? We're going to get into the war tomorrow. Promise y'all. You dig what I'm talking about? But time be flying, man. You look up 3-4 hours, then flew by, you don't even notice it. You dig what I'm talking about? And y'all know I like my brother Malachi said, you're a little long-winded, brother. I had to crack up laughing at that, but he ain't lying. He ain't lying. But shit, you can't talk a lot until you know a lot. So, with that being said, man, it's your boy Cosmon Cal, man. We got a cracking. I'm totally nebular, man. Listen, though, from the hot lands of elsewhere, these boys came in here dreaded up niggas. I had read that before, and I instantly perceived it as Africa. But then there's another place that's a warm place where these copper-colored, bronze-colored people is coming from, these yellow bones. You dig what I'm talking about? Oh, man, listen, bro. Listen. This is getting heavy. You dig what I'm talking about? Wow. Well, as usual, you know what it is with me, man. Cosmo and Cal, man. Upwards, outwards, ever. You dig what I'm talking about? And oh, yeah.
And oh yeah, put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feel it when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh,
it's that Jehovih, that Chow Mein, that Papa Bull, that Tao Mein, since sunset in the arc of Wayne. My brain moving like Tao Sang, so as above, it's so below. That up and that down thing, this flow is atmospheric. I call that a ground game. See, water is knowledge, so if I'm teaching, you're learning. So how your God make a sun without vortexing and current? See the pattern is panic, I'm reaching out for my people. Oh, watch me flow through your speakers, you feel the force of the equals. And when the force gets the equal, I'm taking off like an eagle. Police popped the pastor yesterday for pushing put equal. My DNA is Moshe. Mix that thing with higher water. My spirit rate is OTN. It's just a higher order. Got more light than Kavita. Rap a lot just like Tila. Went from sinner to saint. Shout out my big homie Sela. Got more torque than a sports car. Got more work than a door star. And the 4 million I make, I'm giving the Dr. Umar. Oh yeah.
Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah.
Super 7 in my rites and ceremonies. I'm married to Jehovah, holy matrimony. Confucius say, in the words of Caillou, before you hit the tomb, be a bridegroom. Only got one question for Miss Susan B. On how to last Ahu when it's now a ennui. Blame my inspiration, I'm just thinking thoughts. But in the way of God, we gon' keep it short. Why Jesus wanna kill me, Matthew 10:34. Just a couple questions that I'm needing to know. Oh, watch me flow, it's so potent. Set the vortex in motion. Super 7, I'm floating across the Aegean Ocean. Oh, you a Muslim now, so I guess you making salat. Well, I'm a Israelite, I'ma make him at the Shabbat. Got Moses on the bumper, super slap off in my spaceship photosphere. So I stay lit, peace and light to the faith is so yeah.
Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah.